Bookie. This is a story that I thought of myself that you may never see. So it is called Classifying These Mounds. With the image that represents the trees, mounds, some goopy goop coming from the sky, electrical posts, things that represent the story. So let's begin classifying these mounds. Little quote: insects, tiny creatures of the deep, tell another that species overpopulation is adaptation to removal. Though certain elements exist for dangerous poking, the only prevailer in the finder of solution. When a species overpopulates, sometimes people want to remove them, which obviously makes sense. But the only one that will survive is the one who will find the solution to it all. What that means in the story. What I was doing was unbelievably peaceful. It was like taking a smooth and steady walk at the beach, but only better. Why, taking a stroll through the woods was the perfect thing any would need after a long day of working amongst a whole lot of telephone poles. Seriously, my entire career is centered around repairing damaged ones during thunderstorms. This day I expected to be pretty basic, like any other, especially since I was just taking a walk and within this very same park I had every day for 10 years straight. The same perfect refreshment it was to connect with nature after being immersed in the human life for so long. Birds were beautifully chirping, fluttering their wings, claiming their trees, keeping out intruders to their trees. Okay. Birds, they do that. They chirp and they make giant ruckus, and they don't let any other birds by their tree. Ladybugs were decorating so perfectly the flowers and leaves below their red, black, and white speckled design, forming their large clusters on trees, killing the trees. Okay. The bears were just waking up from their hibernations, ready to store up for the following season, foraging on berries, adorably rolling about, destroying beehives, growling to those who got too close. Okay, at least I never encountered one of those. Something, though, being within these supposedly familiar surroundings gave me a strange, suspicious feeling, and I just couldn't help but believe there was always more than one side of every story. Just as I began crossing that same wooden arch bridge within that same park with more or less playgrounds and trails for walking. Every park has to have a playground. Maybe not every, but still. A lot of them have playgrounds, but not all of them have trails. Yeah. Upon that same gravel stone walking trail as always, my mind suddenly perked upward, somewhere perhaps the sky, at the slightest hint of a noise of disturbance in the distance. Was it the sound of a bird? A frog? A cloud? Gee, I don't know. Clouds could potentially make noise when startled, I suppose. The same noise persisted, sounding as just like over 100 bees buzzing all at once. Well, okay, considering the sound a bee made, probably not a cloud then. Things get scary in the middle of the dark woods enshrouded by plenty of surrounding trees with not another soul in sight, or so you might only believe. One could never know what to expect and what possibly to avoid. I spun myself around, head bobbing up and down, eyes darting in every direction possible. Trees. Oh, come on, just more trees? Oh, wait, there's actually a mosquito, too. And look, it's pleasantly sucking upon my upper arm. My humerus. How exciting. But quite frankly, this event was nothing to help explain for what had quite caused for such a great buzz. Well then, what had made that buzzy noise? It had sounded like some sort of buzzing bee, but I wasn't finished with my phrasing there. The vibrating noise sounded more shallow. It was like this rippling was coming from the ground just below my feet. That was even possible. Who ever heard of the grass or rock nesting bee? My stand corrected, there are actually hundreds of bee species that, when left in solitude, would happily build their nests directly upon the grass, or even far underground, building up from the holes other ground dwellers had commenced to create, but had so unexpectedly departed from. Bees do live in the ground, and I actually do have a story. Like, I had 2 bushes in my front yard, and there was this giant beehive that was underground, and bees just kept going in and out of the hole. And they just never stopped. Eventually, when winter came and they had to leave, oh, I just couldn't put my foot on that nuisance's location. I'm glad I couldn't, cause otherwise I might just step on one of those ground-loving stingers. I continued my walk, trying to forget about everything and focus on the parallel lines of chopped or fallen logs running along the two sides of the track, easily marking up the edges of the beautiful dark path. The breeze was lovely, a great way to cool off in response to that blazingly uncomfortable sun above, by which that time, surrounded by all those dark and looming trees, I could no longer see to feel. Yes, the cold was dawning upon my spirits of happy manner, and the buzz was ruining my peace. Dear, this madness was in my mind again. Even after attempting so fiercely to block it all out, but how quite indeed persisted that buzzing madness. Oh dear! With more vibrations, more effects, more pain in the ears, I sensed the crazy noise getting closer. Dear, dear, what to do? A few more steps and soon I'd be just rounding the corner, the other side hidden by a massive willow tree and plenty of large bushes below. Self to note?
Yeah, let's fix this. Note to self.
Society really requires a gardener to assist with nature's decor in this point of the path. Yeah. But wait just a second, what if the sound was coming from just around this very corner? Would I get exposed to whatever the sound was? Would whatever was causing the dreadful noise squish me? Eat me? Love me? You know what? That last one was practically impossible as an outcome to consider. I didn't even know what it was, more or less if it was quite fond of humans. How I attempted to bundle all the remaining courage within my frailly little soul, all hopefully to survive the madness brought by my rushing mind. I would be okay. I could do it. Yay! Please, I stated upon every step, hoping and wishing for something useful, cute, or friendly to arise. You know, if it was just a little bunny making a very buzzing sound. It was more than I which lied here, both in being and mentality. And I'm not afraid of this contrast. I can be great again. I can succeed at obtaining my strength to conquer my enemies. I can defeat the patience of others and face a new reality. This token of life to which I have no idea how to occur. I ran now, ready and eager to face this buzzing. A ringing that had so somehow made me feel certain death within each of the mechanics of my warrior ears. It's somehow, after rounding the corner, making my way to this new space, I ended up just standing between two enormous mounds of mud, one on each side, replacing the before only logs as the borders outlining this dirt trail. That's so weird. That's so weird. And when did those big things get here? For all days, all moments, all seconds of my passing through these trails, I just have never discovered myself acknowledging that there were two giant mud mounds right here. My own confusion served as a weakness to my wish to have more strength, and because of it, I didn't ponder too much about the upcoming dangers of just so simply walking into that dirty mess. Yet until I reached where would pop out as the other side. Yeah, as if there was one. Just taking a small step inward to this double-sided contraption, I couldn't believe that I'd ever expected a place so calm, when I had just taken one great step between the massive walls of this muddy structure, that a whole bunch of ants would begin catapulting all over me. Ants. The ants. They did it. Parachutes and everything, jumping and landing from all levels of this mud structure. Like, I knew these walls were ginormous, perhaps great as the Great Wall of China. Anywho, for some people. But you know, it is really a challenge of the brain to believe that it had been none more than these tiny insect creatures that had actually managed not only to construct, but consistently support such an enormously long, tall, lengthy structure of nothing more than mud. Like, how far underground did this structure travel? Were there tunnels that the ants had built as an addition? These giant mounds reaching for the skies? That's what I'm saying. Immediately I backed off, not wanting to disturb these bugs' uttermost beautiful house of many layers and segments. Well, I couldn't just maneuver around these strange mud structures. Each quite overlapped the pathway. Too many trees surrounded the outsides of these mounds, plus plenty much more so of rose bushes and thorny plants. Plus, I was just not ready to get the itch of my life with a touch of possible poison ivy or oak. But again, through these mounds? Well, insects told plenty otherwise. And you know, it's strange that no human had managed to do anything to prevent these creatures from developing such a wicked structure within this beautiful forest. Shouldn't there be some sort of maintenance guy or lawn man who's supposed to take proper care of these problems before the mess turns into a serious issue? This was a national park, after all. Besides all my woes, I still needed a way to cross, to commence my hiking journey to the finish line exit of this completely long walking trail, and go home. Oh dear, but just remember when all those ants were crawling all over me, some even biting. Can you dare so believe it? They didn't want to just disturb a confused person, but also to attack. No one would know why then. I attempted at an entrance between their two territorial mounds. These ants had those seemed to have fallen from the sky, showering down upon me like bits of snow constructed from none other than the clouds. Either way, I was there just passing. Ace. Itchy. Bits of snow constructed from none other than the clouds. Either way, I was there just passing. In fact, why not just run? What harm could a sprint through these two enormous mounds of walls so cause? Those ants wouldn't have a second chance to pounce if I was sprinting faster than their little legs could carry their tiny bodies over the edge for a pounce. Only the queen ant actually had the ability to fly, so only she would be the one to question the strategical possibility of the ants. Or so I think. So she would be the only one to question for the strategical possibility of. Besides this by standing point, I decided to make for my break, steps thrusting backward for the gaining of speed until, with moment's reach, I eventually took far to the skies in my running, one foot so ahead of the other, never another article of worry in sight. And once I'd saved myself from their horrible destruction-filled ways, I would save this forest, the very place I run, march about for my fun, my self-dignity. Oh, it was my one and only love in the entire wide world. Well, actually, I probably love my cat Fluffy more. But still, this was my place, and I was not going to let its shrubs disappear to some crazy bug so easily.
Fluffy doesn't exist.
Gigi. I was so close to the exit, I could practically see the blinking of sunlight ahead, speaking out, calling my name. Yay, you faced those bugs, now go save our forest from the dreadful mounds of these mutant ants. How thrilled would I be at the moment my foot stepped out from between the two structures, then there to inform the forest ranger of this mighty disturbance, also to make the world a wonderfully great place once again. That would have been the case, that is, before an enormous ant came out of nowhere, like literally nowhere, and it was the size of a bee, aiming right so for my nose. Ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. Wow, for a while, but now I can do it. Just like randomly try to hit the very tip of your nose. The stinger's the size of a bee, aiming right so for my nose. Did I mention that this guy was flying? Gee, and what a hit! The stinger sunk inward, straining my muscles and causing quite the painful sensation within the very spirit of my gut. I wanted to leave, to tell the universe that I wish I would have never entered this my favorite forest in the whole wide world. Boo-hoo, the world was to I. The one who had indeed faced a colony of dangerous insects, it was now on the road's verge of certain death. I thought the stinger would kill me. Well, I had absolutely no clue what was in that ant butt. I can most definitely say it wasn't something of a helpful substance for the human body, because it's venom poison. First of all, the end stinger had been shaped like some sort of flintstone dagger-like arrow thingy, shaped so that once the arrowhead goes in, it never comes back out. Well, just my luck for this moment in almost solitude, that ant queen wasn't going to be exiting my skin so easily. Next in line to mention as a result for this sting was the color of my skin. I had turned a full, complete tinted shade of green. Like, I understood blue or purple, even yellow or red as a color resulted from a deer sting. But green? Just what was the issue here? Did this ant inject me with some sort of dangerous chloroplast or inner plant matter so that this stung part of my body is now able to perform pure photosynthesis utilizing its murky, nauseous looking green shades? I wanted a good, hard, clear saying as to just what in the world was going on. My entire face is green? I'm a leaf. Something I just didn't want to be. Oh, and what's this spreading through my nose? A tingling sensation? Why do I feel so dizzy? My poor head felt like it was taking quite the mighty turn of the tide. If only I could just pull that ant queen out from the very tip of my dear sniffer. My thump. And that's a break in the story. You see those dotty lines there? It's finger size. The break in the story. So let's continue. A moment in time has passed. This is Jelly. Goodbye. At the hospital, a quiet, completely blank white room. That is location. Back and forth monologue. A name. and then whatever they say. At the hospital, a quiet, completely blank white room. Nurse. My goodness, girlie, I don't know how in the entire world you could have gotten hurt by some insect so distinctive, but fear I that it's about time we successfully remove it, and I'm afraid the process hasn't been so easily. Moments right after we had performed that surgery upon your nose, slicing off a good chunk of it in the process, it seems that the angry ant is still quite alive and well attached with its stinger to dear your nose. A rather large stinger resides in there, huh? But not a worry to you, for with my pair of tweezers and a taste of some proper surgery, anything the world may deliver can be accomplished. And here, suddenly, the old woman snatches a pair of tweezers and moves along closer to the form of the still unconscious girl, spreads wide open the tweezers, firmly attaches each edge to the body of the ant specimen, like a pinch, then pulls the figure high upward toward the ceiling with every inch of her old lady might. After the grand attempt, several few slow seconds pass as the old lady makes for a great ponder. Nurse. Darn, the little thing seems to be quite rather stuck. Great, and now my surgical tweezers are cracked. Just a little. Well, no biggie. I'll just have to bring out the next best thing. My plunger. Yes, indeedy. The rubber thingy is absolutely perfect for this task. Never could anything have been more perfect, even after all our most wonderful trial and errors to occur with past experiments using its rubbery toilet and clogging functions. I just feel most confident that using the rubber thing for this very experiment is the most accurate action to partake in the world. So let it be brought. Bring in the plunger. I've adapted. From somewhere in the corner of the small, dark operation room, a really fancy rolly car wheels itself in, all by itself. There were some special supplies upon its surface and within its compartments. Upon the first shelf lies the mighty plunger. Most effectively, the old woman tosses her tweezer thongs down, lifting now this next best accessory of an uttermost beautiful plunger. Nurse. Now this will finally help me remove my wonderful specimen of ant. Once separated and acquired from the nose, this little ant shall be scooped up and taken back to my most powerful volcanic lair. There where I can make all the craziest jungle potions ever. Then I will send and disperse these poisonous potions outward for all the meek, ordinary world to handle. Guess who's the crazy one now, you little human of despicable ways, decisively messing through the mounds of such these magical creatures of the world of a place where every beast of the land fights and attempts to take over each other's territory for more territory themselves. Also, no mercy. Well, the next ruler of the land of shall be me, myself, a fake doctor residingly operating in a fake hospital. And no one can do anything to stop these masses of my evil plan. Not even when I outrageously take over the known world of natural humans. Hee hee ha ha mwah ha ha. Very long hee hees ha ha. Where did I put? Oh yeah, right there. Distracted by her own craze of laughter, the old woman doctor, or whatever she was, suddenly became startled to feel the prick of a tiny pinch upon the tip of her very nose, that of a rather small but capable insect, that whom the lady was clearly offending with her words of future plans of the destruction. The nurse. What's this? Why do I feel so... Plop. Nurse falls to the ground. From the corner of her shaky and confused eyeballs, the old lady sights a rather familiar-looking ant flying away from just having landed upon the tip of her nose, the bug looking all happy and gleeful. Suddenly, the lady spots the before unconscious girl, now no longer unconscious, and that bizarre insect landing directly upon the girl's very shoulder, almost as if the two, the bug and the girl, were just best buddies reuniting. Nurse. Wait, what is all this? Why am I upon the stinky dirty ground? The stinky dirty ground and you, girlie, aren't. This doesn't make not one bitty of a hint of sense. The flying queen ant had stung you, and the stinger has been so strongly lodged to your nose. Only in your dreams, sister. Not that that really old witch was my sister or anything. I suppose the phrase was just a common yet classic figure of speech. See, without you even knowing, I, the once fakely unconscious girl had offered this here bug a pretty good deal in exchange for her insect queenliness, leaving us humans safe and sound from unexpected attack. I've offered her and all her aunts the space of our parks, temporarily until these insects can find their space started again. What's more, their mud mound walls and borders will easily help preserve and protect the park from strong winds and dangerous poachers, or lunatic people like yourself, for the time being. I'm guessing this little royal relished in joining with my plan much more than whatever your plans could have offered for her colony, and I'm guessing that plan would have just left these poor ants with none other than a choice, considering all you had wanted to do was take over the world, including that world of the ants. By now in history, villains need to realize that kidnapping magical creatures and attempting to force them to do their biddings, meanwhile forgetting the power of clever little mortal humans such as myself, doesn't really get their wicked nature too far in the goal of taking over the world. Nurse. Well, I have more tricks than you might realize. Yes, indeedy, I have an unlimited number of ideas, a type of thought thingy which you mortal humans will never learn how to produce. I think this thing is kind of scary, a little decoration. Silence, the girl says. Right, well, we humans have certain types of ideas too. How do you think I had the idea to ask this dear old bug for help? Nothing of the idea for a bug and a human to team up. It just arrived out of thin air. This unbelievable occurrence was a production of all pure logic and brain power. Nurse. Yeah, but cough. How did you manage to communicate to that creepy crawly creature all meanwhile I kept my eyes and ears locked on you every second of our journey here? After I had located and dragged that unconscious body of yours out from the woods, moment with that ant quite fixed upon your nose, I placed your corpse inside a totally unsturdy wheelbarrow, even almost tipping you off a cliff while rounding the corner. Then I finally shoved you into the extremely small door of this place. There was practically no way you could have had time to strike up a conversation with this tiny and useless, I say, bug of all evilness. I glanced at my newest bug friend, a mischievous look planted in my eye. Actually, it wasn't I who started the conversation. Before I could pronounce another word, my bug friend decided to take over this conversation, lifting her head proudly and now pointing one little leg outward, stating with a lovely, delicate, and magical voice of nature, Of course it was me who began the conversation. I never meant to bonk this poor soul in the face with my prickly stinger. A strong, unfortunate breeze, it had been caught me to outside the Mounds' two protective walls, causing me to get so crazily swooped around and about, completely unaligned from proper reality. Now not Sir Frenchie the dog. My tradition. That sounded. What a surprise that it had been to sight the very first human to ever walk between our wall fortress. What an honor it was for all us insect folk. Or it would have been if only I had been able to better control my queenly flight. Dear, I had so horribly landed upon her very face. More than that, a splat. I fear I might have only left the poor girl unconscious, so I immediately attempted to suck the venom back through my stinger, an action which, after seconds of consistency, eventually did revive her dear soul. Oh, how I wanted this life's moment to be a time for celebration, and to remind my silly members of family to not just climb to the top of our mud mounds to commence a free fall off into the air and gravity down for simple fun. I really need to teach my colony of a hive. But anywho, I had a job to finish. See, I knew you evil witch, were after me, and thus I knew I had to get away and obtain revenge for all your misdoings, pushing us ants out from our land, forcing us to seek shelter somewhere above the surface alongside humanity. But there was also the speculation in which I wanted to make my poor flying and stinging actions up to my good friend here. Decided to try talking to her, perhaps mentioning the complete story and how there was more than just a simple acceptance of my grand apology that I needed, although the dear girl did give a lot of the latter acceptance. Before our souls could size up a plan, however, I sensed your presence, you evil arch nemesis of mine own, from the corner of my view, and I could just discern your whole evilness. So I hesitantly wedged my stinger back into the girl's dear nose, of course with the girl's honest permission, but this time remembered to shut off my poison-producing organs, so There so for the stinger's end to act simple as a delicate yet clean and harmless needle inserted into a pillow of thick cartilage, this, and your ears like this, and turned on my lucky inner hormone for super stickiness. And this magical mutant power of my ant species would not even harm whatever the surface I was stuck to. With so these measures, it was so assured that I would not allow myself to get caught by someone who only wanted to utilize my powers for the worst of creation. So I waited. Then waited some more, all there sticky stuck by stinger within that nose. Meanwhile, all you continuously pulled and pulled on my body like a useless noodle wedge underneath the heaviest brick ever existent. I am not a noodle. I am a gallant ant of the uttermost elegant kind. I do not deserve to be treated like this, I thought to myself at that moment, also giggling with such strong laughter. Hee. So only 40 seconds ago, when I noticed a sight of this girl's eyes blink for the first time in a while of her coma, I knew something fishy was up, and I knew this trickster acting idea would be good news for the both of us. Yes, I would get my fair share in the game, and with this grand deal together we made, bug the human, human to bug, I knew I had supported both my family and my new friends, or soon-to-be friends, once enough people come to admire our beautiful collections of mud walls. As for you, my dear sorcerer, you'll be taking a nice long visit too. The Ant Queen glances toward her enemy. After that long story and elaborate confrontation, it seemed the old witch enemy, Soshly, oh no. But that old witch enemy who was injected with the poison from the ant stinger had already died. Queen Ant. Oh, I see. Pretend play already, are you? Well, I'll have you know that I know a thing or two about... Then the girl interrupts. Before you do take some energy on explaining whatever it is that you know, I just want to add the fact that I think the old lady actually died. The old lady is actually dead. But the conversation stretched so long, I figure that the poison had plenty of time to deeply seep into and infect the soul of that old woman doctor, or whatever she was, the Queen Ant. Well, we'll just see about that. You know, the fact that we are in a mad scientist's laboratory, not the medical clinic of a hospital. We have plenty access to the most deafening equipment, including electric array, shocking devices, and other wonderfully disintegrating fluids. We can bring her back to life. We can revive her old lady self. Let's just go ahead and strap one of these strange looking devices to one of her fingers and zap, zap, zap. Silence. Following that second weirdly tranquil and short zap. Not even a twitch of gray hair commenced movement from the head of that old witch. She clearly remained dead. Queen Ant. Well, since nothing happened, I suppose her soul has officially perished and is never to return from the dead. Who knew just how much poison my poison really contained? The girl. Then maybe it's time we both start planning our futures. How about it? I'll help you gather plenty of mud for your new mound homes while you remind all your worker ants to not fall upon random people and their business of leisure walking while we begin the construction of your homeland. Now that the evil witch is gone, there will be nothing to stop you and all the creatures from your world of a happy, successful life. Queen Ant. Totally, my new friend. Let's go. And so the two friends left that weird witch nurse's lab, a really unqualified space constructed within a large hollow pine tree's trunk. They're disguised as a hospital. Somehow, the old lady had accomplished that within her frail hands, crazy brain, with her frail hands, crazy brain, and so little time. Departing through a really small entrance located about a foot or two up off of the ground, firmly sealing the only opening of that strange hollow tree trunk with superglue and duct tape. The two friends went about their day once more, ready to change the world for all human and ant kind. And then we end with one word. Honored. 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 The girl's honored to help her little ant friend. The story completed. And we have completed. I throw the book down. There's no ant mounds and no forest, but still. Bye. 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 Okay. I look like a zombie. Okay, so bye. Bye-bye. See you in the clouds. Kaomi out. Whoosh. Boop.